Today on Locked On Canadiens, the Habs get a shellacking, and should they call up Arber Xhekaj and play him at forward?
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to episode 986. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. As you know, we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every day, and we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. My name is Laura Saab, also known as The Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by Scott Matlev, Habs Eyes on the Prize. And Scott, we have some things to say about the game we just watched the Montreal Canadiens play.
Yeah, I have a lot of things I'd like to say about this game, most of which I can't say on this podcast without forcing my co-host to edit in all the bleep sounds in here so we don't get demonetized on YouTube and get an explicit label for our podcast.
Not spoiler, but peek behind the curtain. I know how to do that on the audio. I haven't figured out how to do that on the video, so that's why we don't bleep things.
Or, I managed to keep my, tongue firmly, clamped down in my mouth here. This was a game that started very fun in that it was close. And then everything just fell apart for the Canadiens. They lost 6-1. I texted Laura at 4-1 that this game is over. Let's sit down and record.
Can I just say, though, it cannot be overstated how much the score was 2-1 heading into the third period.
Yeah, and it's a good first period. A little bit chaotic, sloppy, but, two lower half of the league teams. You're going to get that kind of hockey in here. And I didn't think the Habs were playing poorly. And then there were two dubious penalty calls. One against David Savard on a slash that I can kind of see it, mostly don't, but I have, my blinders on for that. And then a penalty on Mitchell Stevens for bracing for a hit from Peyton Krebs and being too strong and knocking Krebs over. He gets 2-minute interference penalty. Both of those power plays for the Sabres result in goals. Canadiens nowhere to be found on the penalty kill after a good-looking stretch for a bit. And, Yoel Armia that on another manages to pants Rasmus Dahlin on another power play, scores a ridiculous shot after his first goal was disallowed for goaltender interference on Michael Pezzetta. And then the game just got away from the Canadiens. The structure, the calmness in the defensive zone, gone. Out the window, nothing there. And it's frustrating because they're a better team than the Sabres are this year. And of course, I said this in the preview show, and we've joked about it all year. Devin Levi came into this game with an .888 save percentage, struggling, not looking good. First start in his home province. And what does he do? Lights out, prime Patrick Waugh, Dominic Hasek, denying the Canadiens anything. It's the laziest, most predictable script in the book. If you have a struggling Quebecois goaltender and you are coming to Montreal, put him in the net, enjoy your 45 save win over the Canadiens, and get out. Just get out, because I'm tired of seeing this. And it's not on Devin Levi. It's a game that they just weren't good enough when it counted. They were there, and then they collapsed. And when the collapse started, it rolls downhill quickly. It is not like a goal or two in the first period, a goal or two. It is 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 goals. It steamrolls downhill so fast, and it takes the team out of it. Power play wasn't good enough. Penalty killing wasn't good enough. And I don't want to bully the guy because it wasn't all his fault tonight, but he's not exactly making a case for himself. That 6th round pick they offered for Jake Allen might be an overpay after this game. He's clearly the 3rd best goaltender on this team now. And that's a wild thought.
Yesterday.
Yeah, our whole episode's out of date already, basically. It's wild because I know he's better than this. And my big thing is the 7 defenseman thing isn't working. Because at any given time, only 2 out of the 7 defensemen are capable of competently playing defense, and that's Jaden Struble and occasionally, and for the most part, Caden Gooley. Outside of that, who knows? It's a guessing game, and I'm frustrated. They should be better than this. I haven't even looked at who they're playing next, and I know it's probably going to be annoying and not great.
It's the Rangers and then the Flyers.
Oh, great. Love that. I hate that on a number of levels because the Flyers lost in a shootout tonight and the Rangers won 4-1 over Chicago. So that tells us nothing. I was hoping this would be their kind of get right to level things out after Dallas. They won a game in Dallas. They stole that game in Dallas. This one, they played about 15 good minutes out of 60, if that, and just collapsed in a pile of their own shame. And Martin St. Louis can sit on the bench and he can roll his eyes. It's your team. Get them prepared to play. Get this figured out because we're getting past the point where they should be having performances where they just don't show up at all against
Right.
They've beaten twice this year and played well against in those 2 games.
Especially after beating a much better team.
And that's the thing is they played Tampa. Great. Should have won that game. Didn't. Not the end of the world. Came out. Should have lost to Dallas, but stole a win. You should be able to find where you were against Tampa against a worse team that is struggling, that is behind you in the standings and hasn't been consistent all year with save percentages below 900 on all their goalies. You made them look amazing tonight. I try to like have some form of like, balanced analysis. I just look at this game and I go, it was crap. And it was crap from almost not the start. It was fine. But the minute it started going downhill, you could see everything going that it's not going to be the night. And there's a lot of blame to go around for that. It's not one person, but they can't get
one thing, right? Like the officiating was not great either, but it was overshadowed by how the Habs unraveled in the third.
Yeah, here's the thing is the officiating was bad again, both ways. It's not good. Not as bad as the IIHF today, but that's a different story for another day. They should be better than this. And I'm not saying they should have won this game because they didn't deserve to, but 6-1 is a storyline that is a score line that would normally get people fired if this team was serious right now. I want to see wholesale change, and I know they are injured to hell and back again. We know that. Do something at this point because you're treading on that line of we're making improvements and we're in the same place as last year with higher expectations for this season, and you got to figure out which way you want to go on that.
It feels like only one thing goes right at a time. And I think that's part of growing is that you should be able to consistently improve on multiple fronts game to game. The other concern I have is that we haven't really had any stretches of anything, right? Like it hasn't been like, oh, for the last 5 games, the Canadiens have played consistently well, or for the last 5 games, the Canadiens have played abysmally bad. It's not like that. It's a lot of up and down. It feels like a roller coaster of quality. And it, to me, like, I just feel like at this point, Marty's been the coach for 2 years now. There needs to be more. There needs to be some sort of consistency.
And that's the thing is, if they played like they did in the first period where they're competitive and fun and exciting, love that. Great. If you lose those games, great. It's when the wheels fall off and you're not showing me anything. We've seen them lose games, but, Yuri Slafkovsky's looking a lot better. The goaltending isn't the problem. They're creating opportunities. Great. Love that. More of that, please. When you're just kind of whatever this was tonight, it's not it. And I know they traveled and just got back to the Bell Center, but like, what was your game plan tonight? Yeah, the penalties against you weren't great. Kill the penalty. You're on mute, Laura.
And in just 1 second, we're going to stop killing penalties and instead wonder if we can kill the curse on the Habs with Christian Dvorak out for the rest of the year. Are the Canadiens ever going to get any injury luck? That's coming up in just 1 moment. But first, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And it's not just the NFL, it's all kinds of sports. You can bet on pretty much anything at FanDuel, and the app is super, super easy to use. It's honestly so popular, so simple. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That is $150 in bonus bets, whether you win or you lose. And the app, like I said, it's so easy to use, and there's so many ways to bet, like live same game parlays. You can find all the bets in the new Explore tab that they have now. You can do a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best way to find popular parlays, and more. It's just all kinds of stuff there. And like I said, it's so easy to use. It's really a no-brainer. So visit fanduel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. And us. All right, so it feels like an avalanche of injury news all the time, every time, and this time is no different. And it's been a few years that, unfortunately, Christian Dvorak's health has been inconsistent. He's been injured a lot. I don't think the Canadians fans have been able to really see what he can do, based on, when he was first traded for and that whole thing that we're not even going to revisit right now because it's been going on. You want to revisit it?
I'm going to revisit that.
All right, you revisit it.
No, let's get through the first part of this, and then I will dive into why this is one of Marc Bergevin's biggest disasters.
Okay, because that's the thing, is like all I've been doing today is having the same conversation in group chats. But yes, so Christian Dvorak is now out for the year.
Yeah. Torn pectoral muscle, which is not great, not his fault, nothing you can do about that. And dude got to Montreal and just decided, I can't be healthy anymore. Whether it be the knee injury last year that cost him the rest of last season, part of this season, comes back promptly, immediately gets injured again this year. His first year here, he took a really cheap elbow to the base of the neck from, I believe it was Jared Spurgeon, that went uncalled, gave him a concussion, knocked him out for almost 20 games. That one's not his fault, and the officials missed that, so not great there. We're 3 years into Christian Dvorak coming in and being the replacement for two forwards key to the Canadian Stanley Cup final run. And I don't want to bully Christian Dvorak because it's not his fault, but for all the bad trades that Marc Bergevin has made as a Canadiens general manager, you can look at Josh Anderson and signing him. You can look at Subban for Weber. You can look at this is the one that sticks out to me. You lost Philip Deneau, over $500,000, coming off a Stanley Cup final run where he was your Selke level forward, key to getting this team going forward. You let him walk, over $500,000. Jesperi Kotkaniemi was offer sheeted, and you thought, okay, they're offering a lot, but not someone that I think is worth that kind of money. You let him go, collected the picks, and promptly traded them for Christian Dvorak. One of those picks was then used in the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade and became, I believe, Philip Beested, who is a Sharks prospect now, I believe, in one of the trades here. And the other second-round pick now has become a very early second-round pick for the Winnipeg Jets, based off the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade. Every part about this gets worse in that you lost your young third overall pick center, and you lost your best pivot, your most consistent pivot down the middle, defensively, maybe not offensively, in Philip Deneau. And you brought in Christian Dvorak thinking, well, defensively, some of the numbers are there. Maybe he'll improve in Montreal. He can be. Philip Deneau will save a little bit of money. Got here, completely created under Dominique Ducharme, has dropped the offense off the face of the earth, defense off the face of the earth, and what he was here for, to win faceoffs, who cares? It's a monumental disaster. And in a season where you lost your number 2 center in Kirby Dach to a knee injury a game in, okay, Christian Dvorak can come back, maybe play a middle 6 role there and try and take some pressure off of Nick Suzuki. And ghost. I could not tell you one Christian Dvorak highlight from this season. And it's not his fault, but at this point, it's a disastrous trade that Kent Hughes now has to clean up after. Like, the entire thing, starting with how they handled the Jesperi Kotkaniemi from the minute he was drafted through his first season to his second season, sending him to the AHL, bringing him back, scratching him in the playoffs, making him a terrible. It's terrible asset management. And then you wondered why he walked and didn't have any issues about leaving Montreal. And now he's a pretty damn good, middle six center for the Carolina Hurricanes. It's a mess. And it's so frustrating because the Canadiens wouldn't maybe be a lot better, but I think with Danault and Kotkaniemi, they're not this bad. Not even close. And now the Canadiens are down another center, which means their top three centers are Suzuki, Sean Monahan, and Jake Evans. Mitchell Stevens is your fourth line center. All respect to all those players. It's hot crap and probably the worst center profile in the NHL, and it's not relatively close. And I don't know what they can do to fix it right now. They do not have an AHL center that can come up and fix this. And Jake Allen's not getting you anything. It is a mystery that I do not have an answer to right now. And I have talked for a while with all these thoughts that have been kind of bubbling in the back of my head here, but I am done kind of hindsighting the Christian Dvorak saga in Montreal at this point.
Right. And I truly feel bad for him. He was brought here with so much baggage attached to that trade. And then under Dominique Ducharme, like, who thrived under him? Really, who did? Like Jonathan Drouin for 4 games? Really? So I feel bad for him because, like, a lot of these injuries too, they seem to be freak injuries or things that aren't really his fault or, that kind of stuff. So, like, he's not able to get momentum going. He's not able to show what he's truly capable of. And his game has fallen off so much that even if he does try, like, how much better is it going to get at this point? Right. And that sucks because, like, we like, when that trade happened, I went back and I started reviewing how he was doing in Arizona, and he wasn't terrible. He wasn't a disappointment. He was, in fact, quite underrated when it came to his underlying numbers. And I feel really bad for him. And there are multiple players that get put into these positions by GMs, and it just really, really sucks. If he had come at a lower price tag, not attached to the Kotkaniemi trade, did not have that much expectation on him, the Canadiens didn't have a logjam at center. Like, they have so many guys who could be a fourth or third line center, right? If he was put in that kind of position and he was cheaper, blah, 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 like, honestly, like, nobody would complain about this. But this looks, in hindsight, like such a terrible move. And I just like imagine being the player at the center of that, like off the ice. Like, he did a lot to, ingrain himself into the Habs fan base, into the city, like, that kind of stuff. So it's not like he doesn't care or he didn't care. It's just that he was put in under these circumstances and his luck has been pretty terrible. So I do feel really bad for him. But at the same time, now the Canadiens have another injury. So who do you think, Scott, they move to that position?
As of right now, no one, because quote from Martin St. Louis after the game here.
Oh, God.
Martin St. Louis says they'll watch the game and reassess the 11 forward, 7 defenseman formation ahead of Saturday's game against the Rangers. The game always speaks to you. We're going to listen. Marty, I need you to bring it in real close here, bud. I want you to listen to me as I speak this truth to you. The game is staring you in the face and telling you
and yelling at you.
This game, this style of whatever this is, doesn't work. You are down a forward. You are down to AHL scraps for most parts on your fourth line here. 11-7 is not working because half your defense can't play defense and half your offense can't offense right now. Go 12-6. Send Justin Barron to the press box like you should have done 2 weeks ago because he hasn't been playing well. Call up Emil Heineman. Call up Sean Farrell, put him on a wing in there, move Armia to the fourth line, leave Jesse Ylönen where he is, and put them in a spot to succeed offensively. This is not a difficult concept. 11-7 is not working for your team right now. Yes, the goaltenders are struggling, but the defense in front of them is not doing that. Do not call up another defenseman unless you're going to send Barron or somebody else down to the AHL. Do not just... I don't want to see 11-7 again. It doesn't work. They were lucky to win the Dallas game. They were good against Tampa, terrible against Buffalo. Overwhelming thing here says not good, bad, terrible, do not repeat, which means they're going to repeat it, win, and keep trying this anyways.
All right. Well, bold prediction that they're going to actually win on the Saturday game against the Rangers. But you know what? We will have that covered. But speaking of 11-7, blah, 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 we got a few mailbag questions, but this one was really intriguing. And we are going to get to it in a second, and it involves Arber Xhekaj. But first, this episode is brought to you by Sleeper. It is almost the halfway point in the season, and like we just said, the Montreal Canadiens are fits and spurts, floundering. They're basically just the epitome of highs and lows right now. And regardless of where they are in the current standings, I want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick a player, a couple of players, and pick whether they will record more or less than their Sleeper projections or things, goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in any given game. And on the app, you can also connect with other fans and you can play daily fantasy NFL, NBA, MLB, college football. It's got it all. And to get 100 times on Sleeper, you just need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Canadiens fans. You can win 100 times your money by playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. All right, Scott, are you ready for the mailbag? We've got a few questions, and we've got one that I'm actually quite excited about.
Well, as long as you don't ask me about defensive alignments or the penalty kill or Jake Allen or the Toronto Maple Leafs or the economic housing crisis or I think we'll be all right on today's show.
All right, so why don't we say we'll start this. These are 2 draft questions. The first one comes from Brady. If you were transported into the body of Kent Hughes, would you draft Berkeley Cadden? Is that a real name?
Yes, he's currently, last time I checked Tankathon, he was the person being mocked to the Canadiens in the draft. Yes, okay. With the 7th overall pick, Berkeley Cadden. Yes.
And then we've been asked about this one before. Consta Helenius?
Consta Helenius, yes, who is where are you in here? Going 6th to the Sabres on Tankathon right
now. And Michael Brandsick Nygaard?
Yes, going currently 14th to the Coyotes on Tankathon.
All right, so which one would you pick, and who do you think the Habs will pick if these are the 3 choices?
Out of those 3, I'm taking Consta Helenius, I think. I think Nygaard's a very good player, and once we get closer to draft season, we'll have to talk with Hattie. We'll talk with Tony Ferrari again, too. If I am picking where the Canadiens are and who I think they're going to pick, if he's there, they're taking Caden Lindstrom, and everybody's computer just burst into flames because Caden Lindstrom is 6'5", a big physical forward out of the WHL with scoring touch. And stop me if this sounds familiar, so we can do the entire Slavkovsky debate again the minute that the next player picked after him starts dominating. The hardest part of this draft is it is very defensive heavy in the first round. I am looking here, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 defensemen on Tankathon set to be picked in the first round. And there's a lot of very good players in there. If the Canadiens pick a defenseman in this draft, I will scream, however, even though this is the year they definitely should have taken a defenseman, and it should have taken Zach Benson last year and then drafted like Zeev Boom or Anton Silyov this year. But
which brings us to our next question from Casey. What are the chances that the Habs draft Zeev Boom?
Probably pretty good, because they like to infuriate this fan base. Zeev Boom's very, very good. He was very good at World Juniors so far this year. He's been really good in the NCAA. Scouts love him right now. It's just, if they pick a 5'11", 165-pound defenseman, this fan base is going to eat itself alive, because this is not me saying, oh, they should add one if they can. They need a talented scoring winger or scoring forward prospect in this pool right now. They do not have one that matches a profile of what they could draft here, or they should have drafted last year. I love a lot of the guys in the AHL. I like some of the forwards we have in the system. They do not have someone that qualifies as franchise altering in terms of a forward there right now.
And finally, I promised you there would be some fun on this show. This comes from our good friend Carm, who we haven't heard from in a long time, so thank you for resurfacing. Hi, how are you? Hi guys, it's been a minute. Hope you had a great holiday season. Crazy take. With our logjam on defense and shortage of forwards, how crazy would it be to put Arber Xhekaj up as a forward, sort of like a Dustin Byfuglien type? Let's hear your thoughts.
No.
Why? Hold on. Let's have some fun with this.
My fun is saying no and saying put Justin Barron there instead, to be quite honest with you. Go
on.
Okay. Kay's going to kill me, and I realize that this is probably a bit of hyperbole. Justin Barron's defensive game doesn't exist the minute he has to cross center ice. So put him in a position where he has to defend as little as possible and put him on the wing. Watching him try to make breakout passes and handle the puck behind his own net is like watching a blind baby deer wander through a minefield in the demilitarized zone. It's terrifying. I don't like it. And sometimes it ends in disaster, and sometimes it works out just fine. I would put Xhekaj on the back end because he's looked a lot more confident in his own zone in the AHL and would stabilize that more. I would stick Barron on the wing before that. And before even that, I would put Mike Matheson up there.
Ooh.
He's already playing there half the time anyways. So like what could it possibly hurt to put Mike Matheson on the wing at this point?
And then just like call up another defenseman and just make him
put Xhekaj in or move Gooley up, and then you put Xhekaj on the second pairing there and you let it ride. Like, just I wouldn't put Xhekaj up there just because giving him that much runway to hit people is going to be a lot of penalties, and that is very, very scary for a team that currently can't kill penalties in the slightest. So
counterpoint, entertaining.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong in that regard. I would like the Habs to, play a precedented normal game at some point this season, a precedented game instead of whatever the hell it is they're doing this season. So, I'd be opposed to it. I'd love to see how many penalty minutes he could rack up as a forward, though.
Fair enough. That would be really fun. So thank you for your mailbag questions. And as always, if you ever want to ask a mailbag question, you can email us at lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. You can leave it in the YouTube comments. Just write mailbag question or MBQ at the beginning so we know it's a Friday mailbag question and not just, discussion amongst your peers. You can also tweet them at LO_Canadiens. You can find either of us on social media. I'm at The Active Stick. Scott is at Scott Matt. And that last question came from Instagram. So you can find us literally anywhere. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcast, as well as on YouTube. And before I let you go, remember that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. I will be back on Monday with our 3 Up, 3 Down, and we will both be back for the rest of next week. Thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you next week.